like so.
I know it. Okay, we'll call our meeting to order at this time. Thank you everyone for coming, and at this time I would offer an invocation, and then immediately following we'll stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come here again today before you this evening as another day comes to a close. Most of us have seen or heard or had thoughts about why things that happened in our small corner of our world happened the way they did. It's sometimes very difficult for us to trust and obey. It's hard to turn loose and to rely on just our faith that you and you alone are in control. It was that way yesterday, it is today, and will be tomorrow. Grant us the courage to escape the bonds of this earthly life, so that we may come to realize the true peace in our mind, our body, and our soul. This is my prayer for all of us here tonight. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need to adopt the business agenda. If you've had an opportunity to look at it, if no one has any conflicts, I'd like for someone to make a motion to approve it.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda.
Councilman Bell on the motion, and a second by Councilman Smith. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The agenda will be approved. Next, I'd like to call on Chief Patrick, our fire chief, to make a presentation. Chief Patrick.
Had six individuals scheduled to be here tonight. Unfortunately, one of them doesn't appear that he's going to be able to make it tonight. But if we would, I'd like to call the following personnel to the front, please, in this order, if you can, guys. D'Artagnan Beats, Kobe Edwards, Nathaniel High, Rashad Norwood, and Vincent Malacone. So these first four young men here, D'Artagnan Beats, Kobe Edwards, Nathaniel High, and Rashad Norwood, these four young men started basically their career with us back in August. Okay, even though they never rode the fire truck during the last 6 months up until the end of December, these young men were attending the Nash Community College Fire Academy. And what that is it made for some long days for them. They attended 5 days a week, and the guys that actually lived here in Roanoke Rapids that traveled down there actually had to leave here somewhere around 4:30 in the morning because they had to be at Nash at 5:30 for PT. They had to go through physical training every morning, and then they were on to the classroom for the rest of the day. So it made for some very long days, and these guys worked extremely hard to be able to get through that. Of course, you know, it's not only physical, but mentally it takes a toll by having to go through that physical training, but also having to study. When you come home at night after that long day, now they were having to study and to prepare themselves for the test for the next day. And so tonight we're here and honored to recognize these guys. They're currently assigned to a shift at this point. And so we're going to start by speaking a little bit about D'Artagnan Beats. D'Artagnan is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Tracy Beats of Roanoke Rapids, and of course the father of Miss Ivy. D, we also call him D because a lot of times D'Artagnan, sometimes guys have a hard time pronouncing that, so he just says, call me D. So D is a graduate of Roanoke Rapids High School of 2017 and also attended William Peace University in Raleigh. D is the second generation public servant in his family, as his dad is a retired police officer from Emporia, Virginia. D'Artagnan is currently assigned to Station 1 on B shift, and he works closely with his lieutenant, Jonathan Woodall. And if I could, I'd like to ask his mother, who will be placing his badge on tonight, along with his daughter, if she likes, Miss Ivy, to place his badge on tonight. His mother, by the way, is Anna Beats. Some of you may know her. She worked at for the school system. I believe she just retired last year. Is that correct? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay, the next young man here we have is Kobe Edwards. Kobe is the son of Danny and Nettie Edwards. He's a 2023 graduate, so he's fresh out of high school and went right into the academy. Graduate of Roanoke Rapids High School. During his senior year, he served as a major for the junior ROTC. He also has been serving for the past year with the Gaston Fire Department. So I think that's kind of what drew him to the fire service a little bit by getting over there and starting to serve in their junior program early on. He also is a second generation public servant. Some of you may know his dad. His dad used to work here years ago, Danny Edwards. His dad is a retired trooper for the state of North Carolina. And he is currently working at Station 1 on C shift, assigned with Lieutenant Chad Turner. And tonight we have the honor of having his mother here, Miss Nettie Edwards, to place his badge on. Kobe's a little bit hard to get some words out of sometimes for us, so he might have a speech too. You got a speech for us, Kobe? The next gentleman we have here is Nathaniel High. Nathaniel, also known as Nate, is the son of Mr. Robert High and Angela Henson of Triplet, Virginia. He also is a 2023 graduate of Brunswick Senior High in Lawrenceville, Virginia. And Nate is a member of the Triplets Fire Department right across the border over in Virginia. Now, of these four, Nate had to get up just a little bit earlier than the other two guys because he had a little ways to travel into town here because those guys would ride together trying to conserve fuel, and it was easier for them. They could take turns driving and all that. So he had to get up just a little bit earlier. We did make the station available for him to spend the night, some nights at the station, to try to cut down on his drive time during that time frame, though. He's currently signed at Station 1 on A shift and is working with Lieutenant Brian Hollowell. Tonight, placing his badge on, if I could ask his mother, Angela Henson, to step forward, please. So as we were talking about, Nate had a little bit extra time to prepare, and as far as driving in. This next young man, he had a little bit extra time to sleep in the mornings. Rashad Norwood is from Rocky Mount. Rashad is the son of Mr. Walter Williams and Miss Melissa Fenner of Rocky Mount. He's a graduate, 2020 graduate of Rocky Mount Preparatory, where he excelled in football and wrestling. And I think he was pretty good at football. Is that correct? I think he received a scholarship. So, Rashad is a first-generation firefighter, and currently he's assigned to Station 1 on B shift, where he's also working alongside of Lieutenant Jonathan Woodall. So, tonight, I would ask that his mother, Melissa Fenner, step forward, please, to place his badge on. And last but not least, we have Vincent Mollicone. Vincent actually had worked with us for a while. He'd been here, I think, about 3 or 4 years, and he and his family moved away earlier this year, and so unfortunately he had to leave us. But he ended up moving back here to Roanoke Rapids, or in the area. I think he lives in Halifax. So he moved back here, and of course we're grateful to have him here. He was already trained. He already knew our shifts and the way we work things out, and so we were honored to have him here, have him back. He's married to Miss Taylor Mollicone, who's in the back here, and they have two children. One, Grayson, and Miss Madison, who's back there tonight. And if I could, I'd like to ask Miss Taylor and Madison to step forward. Vinny also is assigned to B shift at Station 2 at this point, and he's working alongside of Lieutenant Brandon Sharon. So right now, B shift has got 3 new rookies, which we don't really consider Vinny a rookie because he was only gone for a couple months. So. She don't want to leave Daddy. Said, Mama. That's okay. That's okay. So if y'all will, give these young men a hand. Thank you, gentlemen. The young man that wasn't able to make it tonight was Corey Jenkins. He himself was a past employee with us also. He had been gone for about 3 years, and he came back and talked to us, and was basically, he said he realized how much he enjoyed this career of being able to help out in the community and serving. And he had served for many years as a volunteer out in the county, and as he left, he found out how much he missed it and wanted to come back. So he's also back with us, but unfortunately he wasn't able to make it tonight. So this concludes my presentation, and I appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to do this tonight and to recognize these gentlemen. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief. No. I think we initially had an individual that signed up for scheduled comment, public comment. He was not able to be here tonight, but we do have Ms. Lewis, which signed up for unscheduled. Good afternoon. Good evening. I got it.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Council and citizens that are left. I come to you before you today. First of all, I want to say thank you for those that attended our 74th annual meeting for the Roanoke Valley Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. But I'm also here because I have a concern. I held our meeting there last year, during which, we have speakers. And during the time that our speaker was speaking, the mic system went out. Very embarrassing. So, imagine my surprise when this year in planning, that was my first question. But I was assured that there was a new microphone, and I would not be having a problem. Well, as luck would have it, very embarrassing. I had representatives from our U.S. Senator's office and our Congressman's office as speakers. And the mic was horrendous. Very embarrassing, and people trying to get their thoughts together. And I just think it's time to I know that money is tight, but here's my thing. Kirkwood Adams Community Center is one of your largest money-making facilities in our area. It is rented out quite a bit. And I really and truly feel that if you're going to have this facility and you're opening it up, it needs to have equipment that people can depend on. Now, I did call and I spoke with supervisors that were in charge, and I was assured that they had had problems with it in the past, but it was fixed, but it wasn't fixed. But fortunately, it's under warranty, so it can be sent back. But my really, I guess what I really got peeved off about is if you know there's a problem, you know you got a big event, if I'd have been given heads up, I had several opportunities for other speakers and microphones that could have been brought in had I been aware of a problem. So I just felt like this year I'm bringing it before you because next year we're celebrating 75 years, and I do not want to be that embarrassed again. So therefore, that's why I felt the need to come before you and just let you know how I feel. And that's all I have to say, but please, I think that that should be something that really should be addressed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. We have one set of minutes, February 20th, 24. We would need a motion to approve them when someone's ready to do so.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the February 20th, 24 regular city council meeting minutes as drafted.
And a motion by Mr. Stainback and a second by Mr. Strickland. Is there any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. The minutes will be approved as they were presented to us. Item 7A is a consideration of resolution prescribing procedures for disposal of surplus property.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In the last 6 months or so, we've had an opportunity to review our policies and procedures when it comes to disposal of city-owned property. And we have identified some updates that are needed to get us more in compliance and in line with the North Carolina general statutes. The general statutes prescribe several different methods, and the resolution 2024.02 that is provided before you outlines the private sale. Basically, it delegates authority to the city manager to conduct any private sales without board approval every time you have to come and do this. And right now, we're limited to one certain method, and so this will help us to be able to more efficiently dispose of items. And then also, I will be bringing the certain items still to your attention. So don't worry, I'm not going to go start getting rid of a lot of personal property throughout the city, but this is needed to help us with the housekeeping item for consistency with the general statutes. Subject to any questions that you may have, I'd just ask for an ordinance for adoption of Resolution 2024.02, which updates our compliance with general statutes, as well as prescribes the method for the sale and the record keeping, and then also cause to amend any other provisions that may be in conflict or outdated versions for our records as well.
So I have just a couple quick things to add that may answer some questions before they're asked. Number one, this is authorized by statute, and I would say I think it's probably fair to say that most cities our size already have something like this in place. One of the things about having a city manager form of government is, rather than not having a city manager form of government where it's just kind of direct to the town board, is a lot of these functions for larger towns or cities are undertaken by the city manager. Two, this is limited to personal property. This does not involve real property. For any sale of real property, that still would have to come before council. Three, the limitation in this is less than $30,000, and again, that's prescribed by statute. This process is explicitly authorized by statute. It authorizes a city to set up something like this, and then as part of that, the city can set up these procedures, not only with respect to record keeping, but also as far as how that's to be done. And so I just wanted to kind of add that in and make sure I emphasize those points.
Anybody have any questions?
Is this going through the NC Gov that we normally do a lot of them with?
GovDeals is an option. The primary factor is that anytime we dispose of things is that you have you acquire or you obtain fair market value. That's the underlying theme there, and GovDeals has been an opportunity for that. GovDeals is one opportunity. The next resolution that will be presented to you, I'm kind of setting the stage for this, would be to dispose of certain property and release it through the Enterprise Motor Vehicle Program for them to get fair market value. Because one of the challenges is trying to say, okay, well, you sold this piece of property. Now, how did you determine what it's worth? And so there are several different methods, and GovDeals is one resource. But we've had certain situations where things do not sell on GovDeals, and then someone will say, "Hey, can I just buy that for scrap?" But we're not authorized to let it go. We'd have to auction it again, and so this would allow certain things. I did add in here, and it's not required, but an additional provision that anything more than $10,000 council would be notified of it. And so that's what kind of the next step in tonight is that I'm adding a little bit additional restriction to that for your own notification and transparency purposes. And so I hope that you'll find that through the next requested action that it's a demonstration of that good faith effort. But we have a lot of things that either either old computers or printers or filing cabinets, things like that we could sell locally as long as we get fair market value, and this type of resolution would cover us in those events.
And I'll say too, this is something that agencies like the state auditor's office and things like that often recommend that cities have in place. So again, it's not anything that's that unusual for a city our size. In fact, I would say it's probably unusual that we don't have a more modern form of this in place than what we already have.
Okay, will Enterprise be charging a fee for selling these vehicles when Gov has to, the buyer has to pay the fee to go?
Well, and that, we can talk about that in the next resolution, but there, in our relationship in our agreements with Enterprise, they give us an estimated idea of what they can get for our vehicles. And it far is more financially advantageous to the city to allow them to sell them at certain rates, and then we can apply those funds to our leasing program to reduce our cash obligation.
And what do they charge you sell? What percent?
I'm not exactly sure of the amount that they charge. I want to say it's just a few $100s. It's a transaction fee, but there have been like we have had them look at our list of vehicles, and there are some that they'll say, well, you'd probably be better off selling them on your own. So, it's been an open communication process to make sure that the city gets the best deal possible in exchange for vehicles or other certain equipment.
Are we obligated to sell them if we, quote, list them with that company?
Well,
If we don't get as much as they said they think?
this resolution 2024.02 before you, what it actually prescribes in here is that if we're unable to sell it, that the city manager has the right to retain it and that we can bring it back to use by the city. It doesn't obligate us to declare it surplus perpetually. It allows us some flexibility in the event. Otherwise, if you have under our current terms, if you have it declared as surplus, it's done and no longer useful. But in this way, the other aspect to it is to allow us to dispose of property that would help us to put us in a financially better position in a different revenue there. So
This sounds like what I remember them talking to us about with the vehicles that we started leasing from them. They might come back and say, this pickup you got like a year or two ago, it's a good time to sell it now because the price is high. It sounds like that's what they're doing with some vehicles that we, quote, own now.
well, and some of the vehicles that are described in the next resolution, not in this one, but in the next one that we're asking you to consider, are vehicles that have been acquired by the police department through various methods, and there are certain required steps that you take in order for those disposals. But having these service agreements, and the next resolution is specifically about Enterprise being the selling revenue or avenue for obtaining fair market value. So that way, if in the event we were audited by the state, they hold the responsibility of that method. They're able to show through their contracts through the state that they're able to sell that, and it's very well documented. And it takes a lot of the efforts off of the city staff in that regard. But this resolution here is more of a generalized one. Our previous, when I said this wouldn't be intended to be supersede any former ones, our former one has $5,000 as the limitation, which may have been the limitation set by statutes back in 2011, but now it's the general statutes specifically say up to $30,000 of personal property. The council can delegate an employee, usually it's the city manager, to be responsible for that process. It's they're just sharing that the fee that Enterprise charges is about $395, the service fee for turning over vehicles and selling them at their auction. So if that helps answer your question there.
Is that each vehicle or is it the whole lot?
Each vehicle that they would sell at auction.
And that includes things like the titles and all this stuff, paperwork on it.
Yes, that does. And so but they charge that, but we don't pay that up front. They take that out of the proceeds that we would receive back into the program. I think the ultimate goal is for the enterprise program with them through that fleet program, that it eventually may become self-supporting through the turnover of vehicles and the sales of vehicles that we own that may still have some value to them, and in their market, in the competition that in the customers that they serve, they can get a high rate of return on them to ultimately go back towards our program. And really, that $395 is like a service fee, administrative fee for the transaction there and the changing of the title work.
Okay. What do you want to do? Do we want a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Ms. Davis, do you have something else to say?
We would need motions to accept the 2024-02, and then, of course, I know we've kind of gone ahead and moved into 24-03.
Chief Guyant is going to explain the next resolution.
But yeah, I think right now, let's
Let's
just
do the
deal with-
2402 right now. We need a motion for what they're asking.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024.02, prescribing procedure for disposal of surplus personal property.
Okay, got a motion by Councilman Smith. And I think Mr. Webb, second by Mr. Webb. Ma'am? Golly. He gonna have to get on me. All right. Once or twice is bad, but 3 or 4 times is worse. Okay, we have a motion and a second by Mr. Bell. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion will be approved. All right. We need to discuss the other ones
And
more.
as mentioned, the next resolution before you is a step that we're taking here for the disposal of property, and Chief Guyant is available to present and answer any questions that you may have concerning these.
I come to you with item 7B, it's Resolution 2024-03. This is consideration of a resolution declaring surplus property and authorizing the property to be sold by Enterprise Fleet Management. A list of vehicles has been identified as being surplus to the needs of the city. The agreements with Enterprise Fleet Management allow the city to utilize their services to yield the highest attainable sale price and facilitate disposal of the list of property provided in the resolution that fair market value is secured. So if you look over the second page, you see 6 vehicles that are listed. And I hope I can answer a lot of your questions that you had just a minute ago. These 6 vehicles, I'd like to let you know where they come from. The Tahoe is one that we had purchased from the Highway Patrol back in about 2011. The Ford Crown Victoria was also bought at the Highway Patrol as a surplus vehicle from the Highway Patrol, probably around 2015. The 2007 Chevrolet Suburban, and at the very bottom, the 2018 Ram 3500. These are vehicles from the LESO program, the Federal Law Enforcement Services Office program, that we obtained and have the title to, and they do now belong to us. And I'd like to talk about the Ram if I can in just a minute, but I want to talk about the other 2 as well. We also have a 2014 gold Toyota Camry and a 2014 white Toyota Camry. These vehicles were bought around 2018 as undercover vehicles that were used in undercover operations. The 2018 Ram is a diesel vehicle, and it's really not a good vehicle to have as a city vehicle because diesel is so expensive. And it has very low mileage, as if you see, it's 13,237 miles. We have been assured from Enterprise, and my dealings with Enterprise with the Sheriff's Office when I helped get the program started there, I'm very familiar with the fleet program and how this part really does help us to manage our fleet and to make sure that we don't get in a bind with older vehicles. And part of that process is you try to get rid of vehicles that are aged out or getting to the point. And with the fluctuating car market like it is right now, Enterprise they do have this part of the process for $395 per vehicle. They will sell these vehicles for us. And from my history in dealing with this, they get a much better price than something we would sell through Gov Deals or something like that. We would get a better attainment because they have more of a market that they appease to with people that are looking for used vehicles. Some of these vehicles are in really good condition, but they're just not prudent for city government, and they really and truly aren't. And that the two Lesso vehicles, these were vehicles that we expended no funds to buy in the very beginning. They were given to us by the federal government. The Camrys that were bought, they were bought at very low prices back when we were looking for undercover vehicles. And the Tahoe and the Crown Victorias were bought at extremely low prices from the Highway Patrol. So these have been vehicles that have been used during the time that they have been with the police department. But for the most part, selling these vehicles actually allows us to attain a higher value for the sale of them versus going through the mechanism of Gov Deals. And not every vehicle that we're going to have is going to fit this mold. A lot of vehicles that we have are just going to be scrap vehicles. They're not going to be really worth selling them through Enterprise, and they go through Gov Deals. And a lot of times they go through Gov Deals because people want the parts from these vehicles. These vehicles run. They're in good shape. They're up on their warranties and things, but they're just not functional for city government anymore. And by selling these vehicles now, while the market is really good for used vehicles, we're able to get more money for these vehicles than we would in the future. And it helps us to keep forward with our enterprise plan and to make sure that we are very considerate of any budget funds or anything dealing with the enterprise lease program. So honestly, selling these vehicles now in the shape that they're in at this market time, how it is through enterprise, is the absolute best deal that we can get for $395. They handle all the paperwork. There's no other ancillary costs involved. And we'll get more money for these 6 vehicles versus hanging on to them for a few more years and selling them or getting through Gov Deals. Now is the time to get rid of these cars. If you have any questions.
Police Chief?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. No one has any questions, we call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2024.03, declaring surplus property and authorizing the property to be sold by Enterprise Fleet Management in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 168-2668.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Steinbach. Second to the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Next on the agenda is the city manager's report.
Mayor and Council, I want to bring a few items to your attention for the remainder of the evening here. Tomorrow at Kirkwood Adams, there will be several different funding opportunities or representatives from funding resources and even grant writers present at the Thriving Communities Convening Empowering Eastern North Carolina event. It will start, doors will open at 9:30 in the morning. The program will begin at 10 and will include lunch and conclude by 4 o'clock p.m. Tomorrow afternoon. There will be various North Carolina state representatives from these funding resources, as well as the grant writers and some technical assistance persons that can help answer some questions that we may have. This is open to the public and other communities as well, and will be beneficial to meeting some of the financial needs that we have for various projects. Would like to take a minute to recognize or mention that we've talked about litter in the community as being kind of a chronic issue at this time of year, and through that in our retreat we talked about litter being at the center of the problem, and the city and other agencies are or groups or individuals taking part in helping to address these community problems. And one of our staff members, Assistant Public Works Director Doug Love, stepped up and contacted the Boy Scouts in our area, Pac 411, that's local here, led by Scoutmaster Dan Harris. And those scouts picked up garbage off of about 5 acres of property near Old Farm Road and Lowe's Drive, and filled 34 black bags of trash. I think I put in your email like a dozen, but it was 34. And even prior to that, Public Works staff have been busy picking up trash, and equated to 2.2 tons of litter trash, not your regular garbage from street side curb collection, but just in litter in the last month or so. So while these efforts are incremental, it does take truly the village and everyone taking part and to help pick up litter in our community. And so we want to thank them and the Boy Scouts for that. And also, in turn, the police department has organized a Pinewood Derby with other law enforcement agencies in the area to be held on April the 6th here at the Roanoke, the Rosemary Baptist Church. There's some entry details and all provided to you as well, but it's one way that we're giving back to them as far as any sort of recognition as well. In other ways of giving, I want to bring to your attention at Doyle Field over by the Aquatic Center, the press box donated by Kenneth Daniel Roofing, a new HVAC unit donated by Patton Mechanical, and Parks and Rec installed the new flooring and installation in the roof, and then electrical upgrades by the high school. So with that, and also Dominion has volunteered to help with their truck and labor for light replacement in the athletic fields. So it's a true sense of community when we talk about serving our citizens and our stuff, but it's a good example here again of multiple groups coming together to serve a purpose and making a facility improvement. This weekend on Friday and Saturday, I assume weather permitting, there will be a high school age softball tournament at Chalkyot Park. These tournaments bring in tourism and dollars to our community. People come and spend their time there on Friday and Saturday. We hope that the weather may hold off for that, but then into the youth baseball, we'll be doing evaluations on Saturday, and spring is here, or just about here, officially on the calendar, and our athletic fields and facilities are we're seeing increases in uses, and it's a really good thing for our community to get out and be able to do things here and not have to travel elsewhere for that. Subject to your questions, that concludes my report for this evening.
Questions for the city manager? All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anything else that needs to come before the council this evening? If not, we call for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Bell. Second by, didn't you say a second? Second by Mr. Steinbach. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. Motion will be approved. We stand adjourned.